Hey guys, Kirsten here. I was right in the middle of making you a video about my experience with the 12-hour walk, and I had my alarm set, or the timer set, because I'm making dinner and I didn't want to burn anything, and my timer went off and it stopped my video, but I was already like 12 minutes in, so I'm not going to restart. I'll post, if you missed the first part of the video, I'll post it here. You guys can watch that if you're curious at all, or you could just watch this one and call it a day if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So just to continue where we left off, compounding a teeny tiny little rock in your sock over 12 hours is going to make a huge hole in your foot, a big blister, a lot of pain. So take care of these things immediately. So take the time to do that. I did that on so many occasions. Like I said, I changed my shirt halfway, stuff like that. Your body will thank you later. So that was 8 hours in. So about 9 hours in, I started fading, like mentally, physically. I was just like, I could barely walk. I could barely like take a full breath. And I'm like, oh, I need some sugar. I need some electrolytes. I need some, something like that. And I was like, oh, just make it home. Cause I didn't go as far this time as I did the first half because I knew I was fading and I knew I wanted to stay close to home. So I'm like, just go home, get some electrolytes, maybe some caffeine. I hadn't had any caffeine. And I was like, I can't make it home. I was like a half a mile from my house and I could barely take a step. So I made it and I'd just been drinking water the whole second half. So I've just been drinking water the whole time. So it'd been 9 hours and I had just been drinking water. I don't know what I was thinking because I'm way smarter than that. And I've done many 12 plus hour endeavors. And I know your body needs a lot more than just water. I think I had in my head, since I had all the calories already, then I didn't need anything but water to supplement that. And it would just take me through the last half. It did not. So there was a Walgreens that's about a half mile from my house. I couldn't even make it to my house. I went into Walgreens. I got 2 huge things of Gatorade, which I typically don't really drink, but I was like, I need this. So I went outside. I slammed both of them, made me nauseous, made me feel sick, gave me a headache, and then just laid there in the grass. And by then the clouds were rolling in, thank goodness, because it got really hot until about 8 hours. And then the clouds started rolling in, so it was cooling. It was on and off, hot and cool, and a little bit of a breeze, which the weather I had today was pretty amazing. So I laid under a tree and just laid there and let everything like work its magic. And then I started getting really cold. So I was like, okay, I can't just lay here anymore. I need to get up and try to keep walking. And I was laying down for about 20 minutes. So I got up, tried walking again. And I was so stiff. I could barely move, but I was only half mile from my house. And I still had about 3 hours to go. So I was like, I'm just going to walk around my apartments, like the apartment complex, for 3 hours, even if it's only 3 miles. That's what I'm going to do. Just stay safe, stay close to home. And then I got to a bench about a quarter mile from my apartment and my back was hurting so bad and I was so tired. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here for the next 3 hours. So it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'm like, there's no rules to this. You're just, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make a list. I really wanted to make lists the entire day because I kept thinking of things and I'm like, put it on a list. I didn't. I did not make the list. So I sat there and I'm like, I'm just sit here for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So my back was hurting from sitting. So I'm like, I'm just going to lay on my back. I was stretching my knees into my chest on this bench and I fell asleep. And I didn't even realize I fell asleep. And I woke up and I'd been asleep for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But I felt so much better just taking that little nap, other than my body. So I stood up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't walk. But I was feeling a little dehydrated. So again, I was just going to go home and grab something. But I'm like, I'm not going to make it to home. So there's a gas station like 20 feet from where I was on the bench. So I went to the gas station, bought 2 more Gatorades, slammed those. I felt a billion times better mentally, alertness, emotionally, but my body was just done. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like do laps around the apartment. And I think I did like one lap for I think I had an hour and 30 minutes left or something. And I did 2 laps around the apartment, literally like I was literally taking like inch steps and like, just finish this thing off. So that's kind of how it went physically. What I was very surprised about is I thought I would be fine physically because I've done a lot. I'm really fit and I do a lot of training. And I was like, physically, I'll be fine. I thought emotionally I'd be a wreck. Like just being trapped out there with my feelings and my thoughts. And so at first, one of the things I started doing on just by habit is playing games. Like, I bet I've gone this far. I bet I've done this. This is where I'm going. I'm going to stop here, blah, 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 blah. Because that's what I do when I race. When I do an Ironman, when I do a half Ironman, something long, a marathon, I play games the whole entire time to trick my mind into being occupied so that it doesn't focus on how bad my body hurts. But I was like, I don't want to play those games. I want like to see what happens with my mind. So I quit the games. I pushed back on the list making. I was like, oh, just pull out and, put a note for a couple things for you to think about. No, I'm like, I'm just going to go into this, just open to whatever happens, but I'm not going to make a list. I'm not going to, do my mind tricks. I'm not going to just sit and plan. Although for, I think 3 hours, I planned a lot of things for me, my athletes, my training, I went through what my ideal day would be like, what I need to do to get there, what I'm struggling with right now this year in my life, stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time going through stuff like that, which is fine. That's just, processing and thinking things. And then when my body started hurting a lot more, I actually couldn't really focus on anything but my body because it was such a struggle. So it was very interesting to me that the mental aspect of this was very easy. And it may be because I've done things for 12 hours and 13 and 14 and 15 hours before. And I've done lots of marathons day in and day out before and stuff like that. I did a 200-mile bike ride one time. That was like awful. So I've done a lot of mental things. So maybe that's why the mental part wasn't so hard. The physical part was really, really hard for me. And I was really shocked about that. So I think like in the end, one of the things that really stood out that I thought about quite a bit, probably for 2 hours, was I was like, oh, in 2 months, I'm going to be 50. Like I kind of forgot about that. I mean, I didn't forget, but I was like, oh, this is good timing. The second half of my life, like I've been on this earth for 50 years. So I was kind of thinking about like what that means and what I'm looking forward to and what changes I want to make. And so what I did was I went through each year of my life. So when you were 1, what kind of things were going on? When you were 2, when you were 3, when you were 4 or 5, all the way up to this year. And what I realized is, so I listen to a ton of podcasts. I read a lot of books about amazing people. And so I feel like, A, my life is really boring. B, I don't have like huge struggles to like overcome. C, all these people are so amazing and I'm pretty mediocre and normal and average, which I don't love. So I'm always searching for something. I'm always like, oh, there's something bigger out there for me to make me shine or make me stand out. Like that's one thing when I wrote down like what I want to get out of this. Like I want to know like what else is out there for me, because right now I feel like I'm just like going through these motions day in and day out that aren't, that I feel like I have more potential, I guess that would be. Like, I feel like there's more for me or there's something bigger for me out there. And so one thing I realized when I was going through these things each year of my life is that like everyone, I'm not saying this is just me because we all have so much we've overcome. But if you think about all the traumas that you have gone throughout the years you've been alive, it's insane. Like, it's amazing to me that I can wake up every morning and hope for, like, I have hope for the future. And I'm like, after, like, sometimes in a year, there'll be like 4 huge things that affected me in such a hard way. So, I mean, and again, we all have these. This isn't just me. We all have this, that, when we're little, like, our brains are changing and developing all the time. So we're going through so much emotionally and mentally. Our bodies are changing all the time. We're going through all these emotions of, like, what is my body here for? What am I doing with it? Why is it this way and someone else's body is this way? And we're constantly, when we're young, like, going to new schools, having new teachers every day, graduating from school, going to another school. Some of us might be moving around a lot. Some of us might have parents that work all the time. So we're constantly in different situations. Some of us might have deeper traumas from our childhood, like sexual abuse that we don't even know we're trying to deal with, physical abuse, emotional abuse from the parents. There might be alcohol and drug use in the family. Like, these things as a child, there might be just parents fighting, parents getting divorced, new parents coming in, stepdads, stepmoms, at a time where you might be really having a hard time. There might be sibling rivalry. There might be sibling jealousy. All these things when you're just still really, really little and really, really young. And then as you get older, you're still changing schools all the time, maybe moving a lot. Your parents might be changing jobs. You might be starting to get a job. You're learning how to drive. You're trying to get good grades. You're trying to impress people. You're trying to make friends. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to have a little bit of love for yourself. When, people around you, they could be bullying you. They could be calling you names. You might be shy. You might be overweight. You might be not like everybody else. You might not have money. You might be poor. And then you're getting boyfriends and girlfriends and losing boyfriends and girlfriends and getting in fights with your friends and getting in fights with your parents. And this is going on all the time. And then you get older, you are getting your own jobs, you're getting fired from jobs, you're quitting jobs, you're deciding what's important to you. You might be cut from a sport that you really, really loved. You might get an F in school in a class that you worked really hard for. You might have some learning disabilities. You might have bigger traumas in school. You might have a loss of a parent, loss of a grandparent, loss of a friend, trying drugs, trying alcohol, seeing where you fit in. You might be smoking. You might be experimenting with different looks, like your clothes and your hair, and trying to fit in somewhere. And then as you get older, you're going to college. You might have to pay for your entire college, which you're working full time, trying to go to 18 credit hours, trying to get good grades, trying to make new friends because your other friends are gone, and you're living away from your family for the first time, possibly. There's so much. Every single year of your life, you might be getting into a serious relationship. You might have had some trauma at school. You might have been sexually abused. You might have been taken advantage of by teachers or friends or boyfriends, girlfriends. You might be just discovering maybe you don't identify with the sex you were born as, or you're experimenting a lot. Maybe you're, trying different things sexually and it's not working out. And then you graduate from college and then you're kind of kicked out on your own. And all of a sudden you have all these bills to pay and all these student loans, and you're trying to discover who you are in this new world. And again, new friends, new place to live, new jobs, being rejected from jobs, being rejected from friends, being rejected from apartments, making a lot of money, losing a lot of money, trying to invest money, losing your investments. It's like there's always these things that are causing all this trauma. And everything I just mentioned is before you're even like 21 years old. And then it just it gets more and more from there. And you might get married, you might have a child, you might get divorced, you might have to raise a child, you might have to figure out how to life with a newborn, life with a toddler, life with a middle schooler, and then it all starts over again. You might have a partner who is abusive physically, emotionally, sexually, psychologically, that you might be scared all the time. You might be begging for a different life. You might be so overwhelmed and anxious all the time. You might have depression. You might be on medication. You might be abusing alcohol, abusing drugs, abusing sexual abuse, abusing sex. You might be doing things against the law. You might have a felony. You might have a misdemeanor. Maybe something stupid you did while you were drunk, or it just goes on and on and on. So I was going through every year of my life up until now, and I'm just like, how are we like normal? I know I'm probably not normal. None of us are normal, but like, I am so shocked that I can wake up every single day and have hope for my life and hope for the day. Like, I would think that all of this trauma and hurt and sadness and anger and manipulation and people taking advantage of us, and I feel like it would just make me like the most pessimistic, like, I like hate everyone and hate everything, and I don't. I love everything, and I'm so like, every Monday I'm like, new week, let's do this. And on the first of the month I get so excited because I'm like, yes, this is the month, this is gonna happen. And the first of the year I write out all my New Year's resolutions and all my goals, and I'm like, this is the year, it's all gonna happen. And so when I was thinking about this, I was like, wow, that's like, our humans to me are like super duper amazing, because we have the capability of believing that there's good out there when there's so much bad and scary. And it just made me like think about how awesome that is. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we're amazing that each and every one of us goes through this in our lifetime, and we're still so hopeful, because the world is such a beautiful, amazing place despite all of the things. I probably just mentioned 100 things. So 100 negative, horrible, awful. And I didn't even get to, like, as you get older, you start losing your parents and your children and your friends, and then there's all the grief, and then recovery from other things that you've had to deal with, and all the stuff that came up from your past that you never dealt with. It's like never ending, and we still come out of it hoping that and believing, because if we didn't believe that things were going to get better, then we wouldn't be here. And unfortunately there are people that aren't here because of that. But I'm here. You guys are obviously here if you're watching this, and we believe in our future, and we believe that in a better place and a better tomorrow. And I think that's really like the thing that I thought about a lot today. And it's something that will stick with me, because again, in 2 months I'm turning 50. I still have 50 more years to live. So what am I going to do with those? And that's why I started kind of thinking about my schedule and what I want my life to look like, and how I want to work on my boundaries a little bit better, and not focus on people pleasing so much, and not caring about what other people think so much, and not apologizing for who I am. I'm not saying sorry for like wiping my nose with my shirt. I didn't say it. I was just saying you shouldn't be sorry for wiping your nose with your shirt. So anyway, I don't want to keep you guys here all night, but I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience with you, and I hope that you are brave enough to take this on yourself to see what comes up. Other than that, that to me is a really huge thing. But other than that, physically it was really hard. Emotionally, other than this, like, it wasn't bad. Mentally, it wasn't bad. It didn't feel like it took forever. I was just like, oh my God, my body hurts like crazy, and it's okay. I gave myself grace. I'm not in walking shape. I don't walk, so it's okay. So again, I hope you guys take this journey. If you guys have any questions about my journey, I did make a video on how to get started with it, how to plan it. There's also a website. It's I think it's the 12hourwalk.com. They give you kind of there's some frequently asked questions there. So hopefully you guys will be ready at some point to try this on your own and see what happens. So I love you guys. Thank you for being a part of my life, and I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.